Hello, everyone. Thank you for being here today on another episode of Honeycomb Digital Investments, The Regulatory Buzz. My name is Baxter Hines. I have the pleasure of being here today with Professor Carol Goforth of the University of Arkansas. How are you doing today, Carol?
I am doing great. And yourself?
Doing good. Here we are, mid-February. We had the Super Bowl this weekend, and I don't know, I counted something like umpteen different crypto commercials. So somebody's looking at this stuff, which is great.
Yeah, all the news was so many people were looking at it that actually if you actually hit the little bouncing dot on Coinbase, it was so busy it froze.
Hey, what do they say? All publicity is good publicity. So it's something that's definitely permeating the society. And wanted to talk to you though about some of the regulatory effects that are coming around because there is all of this adoption in blockchain technology and cryptocurrency. And one of the things that is certainly making headlines is that BlockFi has been fined roughly $100 million, or I think it's exactly $100 million by the SEC. So here we now have these borrowing and lending products that are coming around crypto. It's not just owning the coins anymore. I think people are wondering, what the heck did BlockFi do? Why did they get into trouble with the SEC, and why such a heavy fine? Maybe if you could just kind of give us a high overhead look at what happened and what your thinking is going on.
Sure. Once we get used to the idea that these crypto assets really do function like money, we start thinking that our crypto-based businesses should start functioning like banks. And if we put money in a bank and we leave it there long enough, gee, isn't it nice when you can earn interest on what you deposit, what you have lent to the bank? And the bank says, yes, we can pay you interest. Now, right now, the amount of interest that you earn if you put cash into a bank is minuscule. If instead of doing that, you have invested some of your fiat into various forms of crypto assets, you can't deposit that with a bank, but you can deposit it with platforms like BlockFi. And BlockFi for years said, deposit your money with us and we will guarantee in a very low risk way that we will give you back what you've deposited when you want it. And as long as you let us have it, we'll pay you a very generous 8% rate of return. So rather than getting 0.25% interest on your cash in a regular bank, your regular savings account, you could earn 8% if you would just deposit your crypto with BlockFi. And the SEC came in and said, well, the way that you are marketing that, you are asking people to invest their crypto with you being BlockFi. BlockFi, then you are taking that crypto, you are relending it, you're making a profit, you're splitting those profits back with your customers because you specifically retain the right to adjust the interest rate based on how much of a profit you are making. And therefore, what you are essentially doing is having a different kind of investment contract. You didn't register. You have all of your other assets put into these different forms of lending arrangements. That makes you an investment advisor. You didn't register under the Investment Company Act of 1940. So you've got fraud, you've overstated, you've got failure to register a security, failure to register your business, and you should have known that what you were doing was illegal. Pay us $50 million and pay the states that have also sued you $50 million. Biggest fine in a crypto business that we've seen to date.
The premise behind it makes a lot of sense of how they can use the coins as collateral or how they can borrow it and lend it because it has a value. I wrote extensively about that in my book, Digital Finance. So in theory, it makes sense. But the other thing I wrote about in the book is the industry's got to embrace regulation. We can't look at this as though just because it's new that all these rules that have been written for all these years don't apply. In order for us as a society to see broader adoption of crypto, we're going to have to get in the good graces of the regulator and start playing by the rules. So it makes sense that the SEC and the other agencies out there in the federal and state governments are going to be watching this. Carol, there were a couple other high-profile types of lending outfits or exchanges that are well known. Coinbase certainly comes to mind, that did not get in as big of trouble, so to speak, as BlockFi has. Maybe just explain if there were any differences between those, and maybe how you think that is shaping the way that these regulators are going to behave towards these lending products as we go forward.
Sure. Back last June, Coinbase announced that it was planning to launch Coinbase Lend, which would have been a lending program offering 4% on folks who are willing to deposit a specific form of crypto asset with Coinbase. And they, at this time, were in talks with the SEC. Coinbase apparently thought things were going great until the start of September, right before they were scheduled to launch. And they got what is known as a Wells notice from the SEC. And that's an official document saying, dear person, you have been investigated, and we've done an internal research investigation and have tentatively concluded that what you are doing is or will be in violation of the securities laws, and we will initiate an enforcement action. Now, as a member of the public, I've not seen the Wells notice, but the chief legal officer for Coinbase said that the SEC didn't even tell Coinbase whether or not they were going to treat the Coinbase program as an investment contract or as one of the other categories of things that are securities, which includes most promissory notes, or at least some promissory notes. And in fact, there's an entirely different test for when you have a promissory note. Instead of the Howey investment contract, it's the Reeves family resemblance test. And, the Coinbase Lend project was different, where you had a direct tie between what the interest that BlockFi was saying it could guarantee you or give you, and what BlockFi said it was going to earn when it relent the assets. There was a straight 4% rate of return, regardless of how much money Coinbase would have made. BlockFi used the words investing your assets with us, talked about making a profit. Coinbase talked about it as a note, lending your coins to us, and interest rather than sharing of a profit. I actually think that the two business models are quite different in terms of the way they were set up and the way they were marketed. I understand why the SEC would say, BlockFi, the way you were doing it, this was an investment contract. I really don't understand why they were ambiguous about what tests they were using for Coinbase. And I think it's unfortunate. I would not have thought that the Coinbase project was a note that should have been treated as a security under the Reeves test. I'm particularly unhappy about them taking a company with a history of trying to be compliant and making them really the first target. Yes, there's no fine, but the reason there was no fine is Coinbase started with a pre-announcement, had 100,000 customers all excited, ready to earn 4%, a modest rate of return in the crypto industry, and the great solution that the SEC, came dashing to the rescue to get is they shut it down. Coinbase decided it wasn't worth the regulatory cost of fighting with the SEC. And the result is that if you are an American citizen, forget about getting 4% rate of return on your crypto with Coinbase. Now, Coinbase has said it's still going to go ahead with a lending program, but it's going to exclude U.S. citizens. So I'm left with the question, I absolutely agree that if you're going to have fraudulent misrepresentations and you're going to be selling investment contracts, you need to comply with the SEC rules. I am not at all in favor of a regime that says, we think because you've given us all the information, we can make a case, or we can get you to settle because the cost of fighting us is too high, and we're going to protect legacy institutions over the needs of the public, because I thought the Coinbase program would have been perfectly legitimate. But that's my opinion.
Mhm.
Obviously not shared by the SEC.
Yeah, and I think that uncertainty is what causes so many problems as we try to develop this new digital finance infrastructure. So here at Honeycomb, as I mentioned earlier, I've been a big proponent of the possibilities that the blockchain and cryptocurrency can bring to lending to create this better, faster, cheaper way of doing things. Now, having said that, we've always said it's got to be regulatory compliant, and so what we've concluded is we're not like Coinbase. We're not going to dive in head first because it's just not worth fighting with the regulators or devoting time to messing with this. Certainly, we would like to enhance returns through lending. Certainly, we would like to take advantage of higher rates when bond yields are as low as they are. But it's just not worth it. The other last piece that I want to add is that whenever someone does decide to make any investment in a lending product, it's wise to see the amount of disclosure that the person who is taking your money is giving you. And one of the things that's been concerning to us is just that lack of any kind of disclosures that some of these crypto platforms have made. You've got to know how these people are earning these high rates of return. If they have a legitimate business model and a repeatable business model and one that can scale, that's great. But if you are just kind of going on blind faith, it's kind of, as the old Latin saying goes, caveat emptor. It's buyer beware. Be cautious when you can't figure those things out. And I feel like the crypto industry, with the lack of clarity around regulation and lack of disclosure, it's leading to them being a target.
I think you're right. That was one of the things that I didn't like about them, the SEC deciding to make Coinbase a target. Coinbase is now a public company, so it has more in the way of publicly available financial data than any of these other platforms. So you pick the business that tries to be compliant. You pick a business that has been very careful, very smart in its marketing, not talking about investment, not talking about sharing of profits, not talking about an exorbitant rate of return, and it has the financial disclosures to back it up, and that's the one you pick on first. That's to me not protecting the right people in the right way.
Another mystery in the crypto space.
Indeed.
Well, thanks so much, Carol, for being here today, and we look forward to seeing you again on another episode of the Regulatory Buzz.
And I look forward to coming back and being here with you.
See you soon.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.